What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven, and in this video we are going to be talking about the biggest new cheese strategy in Storybook Brawl. By cheese, I generally mean that I'm going to be looking for an out-of-the-box way to try to get an easy victory. And as you can tell by the thumbnail, this video is also going to heavily feature 3 blind mice and make great use of it with the Fate's new hero ability that the first character that you purchase is destined to be upgraded. Normally, with the Fates, I think that Happy Little Tree could be a fine first unit to pick up. You could even Shard of the Ice Queen it, and then you're destined to upgrade whatever it is that you shard into. However, when I see 3 blind mouse in the first shop, or just a blind mouse in the first shop, I feel like that choice is kind of made for me because it is just so sweet to be able to pick up an early tier 4 treasure with such consistency. We buy a blind mouse this turn, then we buy a blind mouse the next 2 turns, and then on 2.2 we already have a tier 4 treasure. That's cheese in and of itself. However, I think that we can even do better than that. We can even get cheesier, and that is what we are going to be looking at in this video. And partially, we're able to do so because I see this Black Cat plus Labyrinth Minotaur in the shop this turn, which is going to be a much stronger pickup for us than just purchasing the blind mouse. Then we're only playing 2 units, whereas if we purchase Black Cat plus Labyrinth Minotaur, then we're basically playing like 5 units, right? Because yeah, Black Cat, the Black Cat resummon, the 2 blind mouse, and then the Minotaur. So that's kind of the idea here that makes me deviate from the path, but certainly there's like, it could just be good to take a tier 4 treasure here. I could definitely see that, and even so, we still have a decision to make, because now we can start trying to go for this additional cheese where basically we're going to block the shop the next 3 turns, and then on 3.2 we'll be able to pick up 4 blind mice and grab 2 tier 4 treasures. So that is one idea that you could work with, or you could not lock the shop. We are on 2.2. Next turn, we just pick up a 3-cost unit, and then we pick up the blind mouse and our tier 4 treasure. That's also pretty respectable, and we could definitely go that route, but I'm here to get cheesy. So the plan is to just try to cycle through as much of the shop every turn and put ourselves in a position where we're locking the shop and then eventually purchasing a whole bunch of blind mouse. So the way that the Fates hero power works, if you don't upgrade your destined unit, you'll see an additional copy of it every single turn until you do upgrade it. So what we'll do on this turn is just purchase this Wicked Witch, and then I am going to lock the shop, of course, and then I'm going to cycle through either Happy Little Tree or Wizard's Familiar, and actually just cast the Witch's Brew. That way we cycle through the spell as well. I feel like that is a fine thing to do. You could also just take the Wizard's Familiar and not cast the Witch's Brew, but I think that giving +1/+1 to Labyrinth Minotaur is probably worth more than a 1/1 Wizard's Familiar, so I am fine doing that. And now next turn, we're going to lock the shop again. We'll have 1 more blind mouse in the mix, and then we'll purchase basically everything else that's in the shop, and then on 3.2, I'll pick up 4 blind mice, and we'll get 2 looks at tier 4 treasures. And one of the reasons that this is so good is because this happens on 3.2 and gives you 2 looks to find Sky Castle before you level up and can start picking up Prince Arthur's. Interestingly, we are actually pretty strong right here, enough to win this combat, and then this happens. Actually get a little bit lucky, and an additional 3 blind mouse, no, an additional blind mouse, that's why I'm getting confused. An additional blind mouse just rolls into the shop for us, so we are going to be able to pull the trigger this turn. Ring of Rage would definitely make us the strongest for this turn. Horn of Olympus I'm not too excited about. Horn doesn't really synergize with other tier 4 treasures, but one of the reasons that I take Forking Rod is because there's one other tier 4 treasure that it really synergizes with. So I'm going to pick 2 of my units here and sell those off, and I'm going to decide to hang on to just the Minotaur because it's got the most stats by itself. And there we see that Moonsong Horn, which is really, really good and really good in conjunction with Forking Rod. So now all of our spells are going to cost 1 less, and whenever we cast something that then costs 2 or less, we'll get to Forking Rod it. So this is a pretty early stab at 2 very powerful and very synergistic treasures, and we're also going to get pretty lucky from here too, because in our next shop we're going to find a pair of Spellweavers, which is just about the best unit that we could hope for at this point. Now whenever we cast a spell, we're going to cast it twice, so those Spellweavers are going to get +2/+2, and we also just Forking Rodded a Kidnap, which is going to be great for us. And we are also playing up against Potion Master, so there's some really good stuff that we can steal from them. And I'm hoping that we can get our hands on some upgraded units or some buffed units, some sweet stuff like that. I would have really loved to grab a Spellweaver for my opponent, but maybe that's asking too much. But Spellweaver or Wizard's Familiar, both would have been great. Instead, we're going to wind up grabbing some mummies, which is totally acceptable. We can see that my opponent just cast that Root Worm on these mummies, plus their Potion Master, so they're going to have at least +4/+4, and we also see that we are able to pick up a Wizard's Familiar. We'll be able to start getting a bunch of stats on that too. We could go for a Toil and Trouble. That'll start to give us a bunch of stats pretty quickly, but I'm going to try to roll. We've got 2 different pairs, and maybe we can make some use of that. There's another option for pairs, also Earthquake, just a super powerful spell. Here we take a look. The mummies are 9 6s, so absolutely massive mummies that we have stolen from the Potion Master. Actually, no, I'm sorry. They are 8 6s that we're giving +1/+1 because of our Moonsong Horn. I think Spinning Gold is a good enough treasure, or a good enough spell as any to be able to cast. I think that we got a lot stronger with the Spellweaver pickup, so there's a chance that we could actually win this thing and come out of here with an additional 6 gold if we are able to win this combat. These mummies are strong. They're going to be able to trade 2 for 1. We've got 2 strong ranged units in the back line, and yeah, all of this is really quite fantastic. I guess the Minotaurs, I should mention, the Minotaur is also pumping up these mummies in the front row. Monster Book was definitely something that I was considering could be a decent pickup, just because we're going to want to play all of these spells matter things anyways, but this is looking great for us regardless here. We get the Spinning Gold, so we get 6 additional gold this turn. The high rolls keep rolling, and we could take Cindy. Cindy will activate really quickly, and especially if we can find any spell that allows us to cast another spell this turn, like Mix-a-Whizzle, that could be absolutely fantastic for us. I would also really now love to find a True Love's Kiss, and I think it's worth rolling a little bit for it, because if we can find a True Love's Kiss, we'll have an upgraded tier 6 unit. I kind of want to pick up that Gingerbread Knight, but I think it is just worth rolling for True Love's Kiss as much as we can here. I will stop down, pick up a Wizard's Familiar. That is pretty reasonable, and then I'll roll and see what we can't find. And then I find a Mummy plus a Feed the Kraken, which is just 4 additional gold. So I'm going to pivot a little bit into this. This is going to give us a tier 2 treasure from Cinderella, which means that, well, we probably want to just skip it because we're about to see a tier 3 treasure. Unfortunately, the Feed the Kraken animations are a little bit long, but we've got 8 gold again already. I'll pick up this Mummy, and we find the Crystal Ball. And I told you this one was a bit of a high roll. Probably should just pick up that Sporko, but I keep rolling and wind up picking a Golden Chicken at the last second, which is totally a reasonable pickup as well. So now we're looking pretty good. We've got we don't have Hat. We've got Ball, Fork, Horn, which is quite fantastic in its own right. And we've got 4 mages plus Cinderella, but 4 mages, so we're looking really strong. We're winning our fights here, and we're on 4.2, so this is a pretty big power spike, I think. Now we just want to try to cast as many spells as we can and see what else we can do with this. Obviously, Mix-a-Wizzles and Polywoggles are still good, but really any spells, there we go, there's a True Love's Kiss, that's what I meant to say. Mix-a-Wizzles and True Love's Kisses are still really good. We will True Love's Kiss the three blind mice back into a Medusa, and then I consider just taking another Spinning Gold here. It doesn't seem that bad. Medusa's good, the Mummy's good, and then we also have these huge ranged units. And I think this could be enough to win this combat again. So that would be really awesome. That would give us an additional 6 gold going into 5.0, which would obviously be really powerful. My opponent does have a Lightning Dragon to take out one of our Spellweavers, but we're totally massive, and we are going to be able to win this combat pretty easily after that fact. So, and we even hit them for 11 damage to one of the lobby leaders. So feeling pretty good. Now I'll just keep casting as many spells as we can, as many targeted spells. That's basically the gist of it here. We are just hatballing. One thing I do want to look for on level 5 is an Aeon. I'm not going to let that stop me from casting as many spells as I possibly can, but if I do find an Aeon, I definitely want to pick that up, just so that way we can make our spells a little bit cheaper. And you can see I rolled right past an Aeon there. Might have just not noticed it, or not sure what happened, but I do roll past that one. I think it was by accident, and I think I am still going to wind up picking up another one. Spinning Gold seems like a little bit risky against the 29 health Wonder Waddle, but I'm going to just continue to roll here. And then I roll into a Pumpkin King, so maybe I could have won this combat, though if I cast the Spinning Gold, I'd be done as far as other spells to cast, so maybe not. But a bunch of stats this turn, even so. Then we roll into a coin, and we find a Wizard's Familiar. So I'm going to pick that up as well. I'll just skip on the treasure, and then don't have enough time to cast another spell, but still I thought that was worth doing just with our gold for the turn, and that is going to just make us so strong here. We do see that my opponent also has a Wizard's Familiar, but this game isn't that close. I mean, our Wizard's Familiar is 3 times the size of theirs, and is going to mean that we do indeed defeat this Wonder Waddle. We do see that they also had a Crystal Ball, but like I said, we are much more powerful than they are for now. So let's see what else we can get into this turn. I'm playing a mix of wanting to continue to be strong, continue to scale, but we do need to find another unit that we can add to the board that isn't this golden chicken. For right now, against the Ghost, I'm content to play the golden chicken, but I'll want to do a little bit better than that in the future. And then I see a really interesting opportunity. Masquerade Ball doubled with the Forking Rod will mean that all of these tier 4 units turn into tier 6 units, and we'll get a tier 5 as well. Unfortunately, none of these turn out to be anything too strong. I was really just looking for Storm King here, but 3 looks at a Storm King was reasonable. I don't think I want to spend 6 to pick up a Doom Breath, though, so we'll just roll away this shop, and now we are up against the Ghost. That is not going to be an issue, I don't think, with a 100 health Wizard's Familiar. It's just going to be a matter of, can we find some other additional units to play on the board? I also start messing around a little bit in this game with the key bindings, so you might notice that a little bit as I just practice locking the shop and stuff, because we did lose some gold earlier on, so I do want to get into the habit of, at the very least while I am hatballing, making sure that I am using those key bindings so that way I can get the most actions per turn in there. And there we go, deal some damage to Carlim Ghost, and we are on 5.2, looking just so strong. Going to Mix-a-Wizzle, probably throw that on Cindy, so that way if we find a True Love's Kiss, then we can kiss the Soul Tack, but then I'm going to be able to pick up an Aeon, so that's really good. Could just ride of the Valkyrie here, but I'm going to roll and see if I can't find anything better. And when I see the end, I think that that is a reasonable pickup. Basically, it's just going to be giving us 8 health. We're not going to be making any use of the XP, but I think 8 health is definitely worth it, and could potentially help us, especially as we just continue to play one unit down. Maybe one of our opponents has some type of scam for Wizard's Familiar or hits us with like a Doom Breath or something. Probably should split up the Spellweavers in the back just in case my opponents do have a Doom Breath, but it is going to be pretty tough for my opponents to win these ones, I think. Locking this shop just because of this Stone Skin. And then next turn, presumably, we will have a bunch of extra gold, and that'll make up for the fact that we've been spending so much gold on spells, is that we're also generating excuse me, extra gold with these spinning golds as well. But if Aeon is able to get the Slay, which it looks like it will be able to, as long as, well, yeah, I guess as long as it's able to not get attacked right there, we'll start to get even cheaper spells, and that'll just let us be able to snowball even further. We actually get a kill onto Sharebear there, so that was the other thing that leveling up did. It meant that we dealt 1 more damage, though that specific 1 damage didn't actually wind up mattering. It's just funny to point out. And then I will Mix-a-Wizzle the Medusa and get a good boy out of that one, but don't really have too much use for a good boy unless we make some of our other units good, which, I mean, I'll take it if we can find it, but not going to actively pursue that. You can see me declining to pick up the spells there that will cost 3, like there was a Gigantify. But that just winds up being a little bit too expensive in terms of Forking Rod, because then we won't get to flip that one over. A bunch of spells in this shop: Magic Research, Luna's Grace, and Shard of the Ice Queen. I was initially thinking that we would be just trying to activate Lancelot through the Good Boy, but then when I saw the Shard of the Ice Queen, because that Good Boy is a temporary unit, excuse me, I feel like it is worth it to just shard that good boy, and now it will be a permanent tier 6 unit. Could have cast the Burning Palm on the Lancelot, though, to be totally honest, I'm not super pressed into replacing any of these treasures. Think that our treasures are fine, but speaking of treasures, this Merlin has got some nasty treasures as well, and Mimic plus Wand is definitely something to be a little bit afraid of. Unfortunately, they're not going to crack our pumpkin, so we only hit them for 10. We will potentially have to play against them again, and here's where I decide, you know what? I'm not going to worry about Burning Palm on this Lancelot. Let's just put these Burning Palms on Aeon, and I'll probably just, like, get rid of Lancelot or something. Do want to go for a Mix-a-Wizzle on something here. I briefly consider throwing it on the Wizard's Familiar, but I don't want to do that yet, especially because we are going to cast so many more spells in this turn that I don't think I want to use that on the Wizard's Familiar and deny myself a bunch of familiar triggers. I will flip the Lancelot because I just want to cast the spells, but I'm not going to pick up a third Spellweaver because I definitely value having 2 ranged units as opposed to just having 1 really large ranged unit. So we'll roll past any Spellweavers that we find. When I see these Aeons, that is a little bit exciting because Aeon is really good. And I do think that I will want to pick up one of them because we're almost out of time for this turn, but I don't think I want to start off next turn by spending 5 gold to pick up another Aeon. Basically, I think it's fine to just pick up one, but I really like the treasures that we have. I'm not really inclined to replace these treasures, so I'll just pick up one Aeon to round this turn out. I think we're going to have enough stats, especially against the Ghost, with this huge Wizard's Familiar. And then we also get a huge Blind Mouse. It would be kind of funny if there were other ways for your destined unit to show up when you're playing the Fates, but it was kind of cute that the Blind Mouse showed up there. We'll go for the Hugify on this Aeon because now we're actually doubling our Hugifies, so that's really nice. And then I will go for Mix-a-Whizzle, and it's again going to be a really tough call for what we wind up Mix-a-Whizzling, but I'm going to hang on to the Wizard's Familiar. Again, logic being that we still have 9 gold to work with this turn, so we're probably going to be casting some more spells, and I don't want to deny those additional stats on Wizard's Familiar. So that is the idea. Don't wind up casting too many more spells this turn, but we do get Aeon up to some pretty nice heights by the end of it. And then we're going to end the turn by locking a Storm King. That will go in for the Siren next turn. The Siren will turn back into a Mummy, and I'll just play the Storm King, and then we're basically like full mages, plus this additional pumpkin hanging out in the back. So feeling pretty good. I'm not sure when the last time we lost health was, but obviously all of our units and this whole board is quite massive. And we're pretty massive as well, just in the fact that we got so lucky to find that crystal ball, as well as this just excellent set of mage treasures from the Blind Mice. My opponent does have a huge Shoulder Fairies, but again, we just have this huge Wizard's Familiar, so it's not going to be too big of a deal for us. Our Wizard's Familiar is even going to survive the Sporko, and then that will just barely be enough to not get a kill onto Jack's Giant. So we'll pick up this Storm King. I do think that that is worth the 6 gold, and then I will feed Siren to a Kraken, get us a little bit more gold here, and then I guess we'll just try to keep casting some spells. That's what we do. So yeah, pretty straightforward ending. I think from here, I don't think anything too crazy happens. Just trying to cast as many spells as possible. Throwing spells on our second Aeon, just so that way they both have a reasonable expectation to slay. And then I'll end this turn with a Genie's Wish. Oh, that's right, something else crazy does happen. A Genie's Wish into a free roll and an It Was All a Dream into Potion Master. So now I'm actually getting 2 spells in each of my shops, and giving my units an additional +1/+1 every time we cast a spell. So pretty good stuff. Let's definitely lock this shop here, and that was quite the dream. So now we are going to be up against Merlin, who, remember, does have Mimic Chest plus Wand of Weirding. So they are going to be able to triple cast whatever spell they are able to find, and they're able to find a pretty good one. Merlin is able to find a Pigomorph, so that is going to allow them to pig 3 of my units. They hit both of my Aeons and my Spellweaver, but they don't hit my huge units. They don't hit my Storm King or my Wizard's Familiar, and it also seems like they spent a lot of time rolling for spells that they could cast. They don't really have too much else going on. They've got this Echo Wood, but this Echo Wood is not going to be nearly big enough to deal with all of the mage shenanigans that we got going on. So that is going to be a win and a kill onto Merlin, and it is actually the end of the game, because either Jack's Giant died to the Ghost or conceded or something. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to make any use out of turning into Potion Master, but this was still a really excellent game and some of the best cheese that I've been able to put together in Storybook Brawl. So hopefully you guys had fun watching this one. I know I had fun playing it, and that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.